Cofunctions is the last thing that's going to be on this test, and then maybe if I have time I'll just go over some practice questions with you. Maybe I can find a practice test or something from the book. So really what's going to be on this test is cofunctions, which I'm going to show you right now, the trig identities, and that stuff where like it says that, you know, tangent is this and the angle is in this quadrant, and then you have to figure out all 6 of the other trig functions. It's that kind of stuff. So I don't want you to worry about the inverse stuff at the moment. You will need to know it later, but not right now, so I'd rather you not focus on it. Okay, so cofunctions. Let's talk about cofunctions. Alright, the prefix co in cosine, cosecant, and cotangent means, it actually means complementary. Okay, so the prefix co in cosine, cosecant, and cotangent means complementary. Now what does complementary mean? The last time that you probably would have heard complementary was in geometry, and complementary means that 2 angles add up to be 90 degrees. Okay, so 45 and 45 are complementary angles. 30 and 60 are complementary angles. It means that some angle A plus some angle B add up to be 90 degrees. So I'm not really sure if you noticed this. You know, a lot of people didn't really notice it in class at least. But you have therefore, sine and cosine are actually complementary functions. So what do I mean? I mean that if you have the sine of an angle, then you can figure out what the cosine of that angle is as well. And I'm going to show you what that means in 1 second. Secant and cosecant are complementary, and then the last one's really easy, tangent and cotangent. They're all co-functions. Okay? Not a lot of people notice that, and then as soon as we put them right next to each other, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it was the exact same thing with just a co in front of it. So I don't know. Alright, so let's see what this means. This means that if sine is 30 degrees, what do you think cosine is? Well, because sine and cosine are co-functions, that means that those 2 angles have to add up to be 90 degrees. So if sine is 30 degrees, or the sine of 30 degree angle is equal to the cosine of a 60 degree angle. And you actually kind of already know that, because you know from your magic table that sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, and the cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2 as well. So there was a reason for that all along. It wasn't just like random patterns. It happened to be that way because sine and cosine are co-functions. Okay, so they have like a relationship that goes on between them. So tangent and cotangent, they are co-functions as well. So tangent of 45 degrees is actually equal to the cotangent of 45 degrees. And that's because 45 plus 45 is equal to 90. Because they're complementary, so they're adding up to be 90. Secant and cosecant, they are co-functions as well, so secant of 70 degrees is equal to the cosecant of 20 degrees. Now this is where it just gets a little bit tricky, but not really. Sine of x degrees is equal to, well, if they're co-functions, that means that whatever we have here and here have to add up to be 90. So how can we figure that out? That means that the cosine of 90 minus x is equal to the sine of x. So you see how I got that? Because the 2 of those have to add up to be 90. Similarly, tangent theta and cotangent, they are complementary as well. So the tangent theta is equal to the cotangent of 90 minus theta. Not too shabby. And then cosecant and secant complementary as well. This time we're looking at 3 theta, so this is just 90 minus 3 theta. Okay, so you will see questions like this on the test. Not this simple. It's going to be a little bit trickier, and I'm going to show you what we mean by that. If x is the measure of a positive EQ angle, and that's going to be important just because they're telling you that it's in the first quadrant, just so that you're not confused. Solve for x. So we have the sine of x plus 15 degrees is equal to the cosine of 2x. So the reason why this is important is because you have sine and cosine right here. So you know that those two functions are co-functions. So that means that their angles have to be complementary. They have to add up to be 90 degrees. So how could I figure out what x is? That means that x plus 15 plus 2x have to add up to be 90 degrees. So now we took something that kind of looked really weird and complicated and it looked like it had a lot of trig going on, and we actually just made it like a linear equation. So this is 3x plus 15 is equal to 90. That means that 3x is equal to 75 and x is equal to 25. And if you ever wanted to go back and double check your work, say on the Regents exam or on a test, you can come back up here and say, alright, if x is 25, so 25 plus 15, that's going to be 40. So the sine of 40 degrees is equal to the cosine of 15 times 2, which is 30 degrees. So you can see, number one, that those add up to be 90, 40, and 30 add up to be 90. You could also do it like this. Make sure that you're in degree mode first on your calculator right there. And then you could punch in sine of 40 degrees. Hit enter. Gives you that decimal, but then you type in cosine of 30 degrees. Just if you want to make sure. And it gives you what just happened. What did I do? That adds up to 70. What did I do? That does not add up to 90. I think I'm absolutely losing my mind. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, John. I really think I'm losing my mind. Alright, so that was 25. So that's a 50. Good grief. Now it adds up to 90, and I'm not losing my mind anymore. And the sine of 40 and the cosine of 50, there we go. See, this is why we like to check things. There we go. Now I get the exact same decimal. Okay. Losing my mind. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay. Let's try another one. If x is the measure of a positive acute angle, solve for x. Okay, so just make sure, they're never going to ask you one where they're not co-functions, but just double check. Secant and cosecant obviously are co-functions. So what you're going to do is take those two angles and add them together and set it equal 90. So x plus 15 plus 2x minus 6, that should equal 90 degrees. Okay, so we have 3x plus 9 is equal to 90. So 3x is equal to 81. I think that's, I don't know. Obviously we can't trust me to do math in my head anymore, so 27. X is equal to 27. Okay. Alrighty. Not too bad. Pretty easy, I think. Let's see what other questions they have. That's it. Alright, this one I know that you do need to complete as a homework assignment, so let me just find your thing. Okay. This is homework number 36. This is homework number 83. So the fact that we're up to 83 now, John, means that you should be able to complete 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, and 83. Okay, so I need you to get that stuff to me as soon as possible. I know that you still don't feel good, but please try to get that stuff to me soon. I dropped off some stuff at the school for Abby. It's in your folder, and the Chapter 9 practice test is in there as well. I know that it kind of sucks that you have to do the practice test as a homework assignment, even though you already took that test. I'm sorry, it's 10 more points towards your grade, so I would do it if I were you. Let me just see what else she has on this slide. Alright, let's just do these last 2 questions together, and then I will try to find some review questions and make you one more video, okay? So we have to find the remaining 5 trig function values. So cosine theta is -3/4 and theta is in quadrant 3. So let's do a couple things. These 3 things are what you need to do as soon as you see a question like this. Number 1, I need to see SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Because you would definitely be using the Pythagorean theorem in this. Number 2, I need to see all students take calculus. And it says that we are in quadrant 3 right here. And then the last thing that I need to see is you listing out all of the trig functions that we're solving for. So sine theta, cosine theta, tangent theta. Miss Tompkins hates it when we leave out the theta, so I'm going to have to do that even though it just takes longer. And then over here, make sure that you write the reciprocal functions right next to, so the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. Reciprocal of cosine is secant. And reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. Okay, now we are in the 3rd quadrant, which means that tangent and cotangent are both positive, but the rest of them are negative. So that's negative, 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 and negative. It always helps just to do it right away. That way you don't even have to think about it anymore. We already are given the information that cosine is 3/4, which means that secant is 4/3. Okay, so we just have to figure out the rest of those as well. Okay, so the reason why we have SOHCAHTOA up there is because we know that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent side is 3 and the hypotenuse is 4. If it helps you, you can go ahead and make yourself a triangle on your paper and just fill in things. All you have to do is pick an angle that you want to be theta, so I normally just put it right here. And then that means the adjacent side it's going to be a positive 3 because the length of the side of a triangle is always positive. And the hypotenuse is 4. From that video from yesterday, hopefully you remember that there are a couple of Pythagorean triples. So a Pythagorean triple is 3, 4, 5. So I already know that cosine. Actually, you know what? I take it back. This is not a Pythagorean triple. And the reason why, I was thinking 3, 4, 5. But if this was a 5, that would mean that the opposite side is actually longer than the hypotenuse, which is not the case. So that's actually a pretty good thing that I saw that, because then you didn't get confused. Okay, so these are the sides of my triangle, and I need to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out the missing side. So we have 3 squared plus x squared is equal to 4 squared. So 9 plus x squared is equal to 16. 16 minus 9 is 7. So x is the square root of 7. Fantastic. Now we have to deal with a radical, but that's okay. So that is the opposite side. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now we need to flip these over, except for the fact that I'm not going to leave that as a 4 over radical 7, because I can't have that in the denominator, so I'm going to rationalize it by multiplying by radical 7 on the top and bottom. So this is actually going to become 4 radical 7 over 7. That's up here, 4 radical 7 over 7. And then this one is going to become 3 radical 7 over 7, which you can do out if you don't believe me. Alrighty? Okay.